My name is Mary, a 35-year-old employee. I was born with a weak constitution, often catching colds and missing school. Perhaps due to this, I didn't have many close friends. Even in middle school, my frailty didn't change. Classmates who didn't like this often approached me, saying, "Hey, you're supposedly sick and missing school, but in reality, you just want to play hooky, right? It must be nice having it so easy. We can't take off because our parents are strict." Honestly, I was envious. Being spoken ill of like that was a usual occurrence. I often came back home feeling hurt and wounded by the heartless words of my classmates. I felt as if there was an invisible wall between me and my classmates, making my middle school days particularly difficult. As an adult, I couldn't easily miss work for a minor fever, so I always put work first, even if it meant pushing myself. Especially as a new employee, my training supervisor was extremely stern. He constantly said things like, "Illness comes from the mind, show some spirit." So keeping up with it was quite a struggle. As my days were consumed by work, I noticed my peers getting married and becoming happy. It made me realize that I was reaching that age too. However, I never felt a rush to get married. I believed I would never find a kind person who would want to marry someone with my health issues. But life is unpredictable, and unexpectedly, a man who invited me out for a meal appeared out of the blue. This person is my husband, Thomas. "Hey, looks like you're finishing up for the day, right? If it's all right with you, would you like to grab dinner together?" Thomas was an elite, a graduate of a prestigious university, and was considered a future head of the department. He was not only competent at work but also cooperative and trusted by everyone around him. He had a personality completely opposite to my introverted one. I was surprised when he suddenly invited me to dinner. At first, I didn't even realize he was talking to me and thought he must have mistaken me for someone else. However, it seemed he was indeed inviting me, which even left me blurting out, "Ha!" Thomas was quite popular with the female employees because of his personality and good looks. It was a mystery to me why he was still single. Yes, I'm almost done with my work, so that would be fine. In the end, I couldn't refuse his invitation, so I went along for dinner. But this meal became the catalyst for the two of us to grow close quickly. He was very friendly, and the conversation flowed naturally. It was the first time in a long time I had been able to laugh and talk with someone other than family. Although I had to head home because of work the next day, I found myself wishing I could spend more time with him. We started spending more time together after that meal, and 3 months later, we began dating. Considering our ages, we decided to marry. A year after we started dating, we found a small apartment near the train station and moved in together. I never imagined I'd get married and truly believed I was about to start a happy life. I never expected this marriage to be the beginning of a nightmare. Shortly after getting married, he gradually began to reveal his true nature. After our marriage, I switched jobs and started working at a different company. It was a company with many female employees. During the interview, when I mentioned my health issues, they reassured me that with so many women working there, I shouldn't worry. Today, I was able to take a day off due to their understanding. "Hey, why are you sleeping? The head of the household is back. Shouldn't you welcome me home? You're so dumb." As soon as I got home, he came into the room with a sulky face, seemingly displeased that I hadn't greeted him. "I'm sorry. I was feeling unwell today and took the day off from work. I'm about to make dinner. Why don't you go take a bath first?" Upon hearing these words, Thomas, who was already in a bad mood, said, "Ha! You're just starting to make dinner now? When a husband comes home, it's obvious that dinner should be ready. Are you lying about being sick just because you want to skip household chores? You're such an incorrigible woman." His words reminded me of what my classmates used to say to me back in my school days. They would often say I was skipping class under the guise of being sick. Their words would always hurt my heart, but even when I was feeling sick, Thomas never helped with the chores. Instead, he treated me like a housemaid. Then one day, a certain incident happened. I felt particularly bad that day, with a fever exceeding 104 degrees and dizzy to the point where I couldn't even stand up. Ideally, Thomas should have taken me to the hospital, but instead, he grabbed his carry-on bag and walked straight out the front door without a glance at me. "Wait a minute, you're leaving me in this condition?" Shocked by his indifference, I couldn't help but shout, "It can't be helped. It was planned from before. Take care of the rest." With that, he really left the house. About 30 minutes after he left, my condition worsened. I called an ambulance myself and was taken to the hospital. My parents and my brother came rushing to the hospital as soon as they heard the news. While receiving an IV, I explained everything that had happened so far. As I spoke, both my parents' and brother's faces turned red. Leaving his sick wife behind to go on a trip, this behavior was unacceptable not only to my parents but also to me. That's why I decided to carry out a certain plan with my parents and brother. I did text him that I was hospitalized, and soon after, I got a message from Thomas. I'm about to head home, so I called the house, but no answer. Are you still in the hospital? Come home and cook my dinner. Seeing this message, my brother decided to call Thomas. Surprised by the sudden call from my brother from my phone, Thomas assumed it was me and started talking arrogantly. However, when he realized it was my brother, he immediately changed his tone and started apologizing. But it was too late. With a low, angry voice, my brother said to him, "Sorry to inform you, but Mary won't be coming back to that house. She passed away." What? Even Thomas couldn't hide his surprise at the shocking words that suddenly came out of my brother's mouth. However, he soon regained his composure and said with a nonchalant tone, "I see. Understood. Once things settle down, I'll take care of the necessary procedures. Thank you for everything till now," and with that, he hung up the phone. Wouldn't most people, upon hearing their wife had passed away while traveling, rush home in a panic? Yet he, far from showing concern, hasn't even asked about the funeral schedule. In other words, he couldn't care less about me. After that, I felt something snap within me. From then on, I decided to carry out a plan that my brother had devised while he was at work. I returned home. I deliberately cleaned up the messy room until it sparkled, folded the laundry that had been hung up, and put away the dishes, taking great care not to drop a single speck of dust. During that time, I checked things like the drains and toothbrushes. After doing this a few times, my brother received a call from him. "Hey, it's rare for you to call. What's up?" Although he spoke calmly, my brother's eyes were smiling. He probably knew he would get a call. Unaware of this, he said over the phone, "Mom, can I ask you something? Did you go into my room while I was out?" "Into your room?" "No, I didn't go in. Why would you ask that?" Perhaps even he, as insensitive as he is, found it eerie that the room was constantly sparkling clean, so he thought my brother was entering the room and called to confirm. The thing is, the room that was messy until this morning is incredibly clean. When I returned home, the trash on the floor was thrown away, the laundry is folded. Something is weird. Did you come to pick up Mary's stuff? Speaking with a tremor in his voice, my brother replied, "Oh, come on, there's no way I'd do that. I never got a spare key to your room for my sister when she was alive, and our mom has been too busy with work lately to visit you there, Thomas. You must be tired to think this way." Although it was my brother who planned it, I was the one carrying it out. Even for my brother, it was impossible to enter the room without permission. Therefore, in legal terms, it's still me, his wife, who is doing this. I, who was listening to the conversation next door, had a hard time not bursting out laughing. If your room was ransacked, I could understand. But it's clean. Is there a problem with that? No, that's not it. It seemed he had something he didn't want to say. My husband fell silent. A few days later, there was another call from him to my brother's cell phone. Apparently, strange things continued to happen after that, so he consulted with the police. However, the police officer did not take his story seriously. Because if things were missing, they could understand. But when he explained that the rooms were sparkling clean, the laundry was folded, they laughed and said, "Are you living alone? Maybe your mom came from your family home and cleaned up your room? Or did you forget that you cleaned up while you were drunk? Anyway, since nothing is missing, you should be grateful." That's unfortunate, but as the police officer said, nothing is missing. That's a good thing, right? Maybe Mary's spirit is lingering in your room, cleaning it up while you're away. Upon saying this, he seemed to take it seriously and hung up with a trembling voice. Eventually, considering the potential nuisance to others, I decided to reveal myself to my husband. One day, timing it perfectly with my husband Thomas's return, I entered the room to find him asleep on the sofa, his face flushed red. He might have come back from a drinking party, or maybe the alcohol helped him sleep better. The table and floor were strewn with cans of beer. It seemed like he had fallen asleep in his drunken stupor. Seeing him fast asleep and snoring, I decided to carry out a special surprise. I had in mind, "Oh, what's going on?" Thomas suddenly jumped as the light, which he thought had been turned off, suddenly switched on. Seeing me, whom he believed had passed away based on the information from my brother, he let out a gasp. Ariel, a ghost, an adult man, saw me, and immediately yelled that I was a ghost, tears welling up in his eyes as he stared at me. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I didn't attend the funeral. I promised to pray for you, so please rest in peace. He mumbled these words while putting his hands together, trembling. Look carefully. I've got legs, right? I'm not a ghost, I'm very much alive. Confirming the existence of my legs, he turned red with anger, this time glaring at me with a terrifying expression. What the hell do you think you're doing? Do you think this is acceptable? Plus, you've even involved my parents. Unforgivable. I'll take legal action against you for this. Yes, against the outburst, I was about to execute the real surprise. Suddenly, my mother, who had been waiting outside the entrance, went to call someone. The moment he saw the person, Thomas, who had been red with anger just a moment ago, turned pale and began to sweat profusely. What's wrong? You're pale and sweating. Are you feeling unwell? Maybe you should go to the hospital. It was understandable why his complexion was poor, because the person standing in front of him was someone he had recently traveled with. It was the woman with whom he had had an affair. In reality, my brother, suspecting Thomas's infidelity, had been talking to a friend who worked in the same company since I left the job. Thomas had been getting along well with a woman named Natalie, who worked at the reception of the same company. It seemed as if they were just friendly colleagues, but multiple employees had witnessed the two of them getting cozy in the break room, and rumors circulated in the company that the two might be dating. Many employees knew that he was married to me, so they immediately realized that their relationship was something more than just friendship. His good friends were torn between reporting this to me and the boss. They were hesitant because they were worried about me, who had always been weak, and how I might fall sick from the shock. Hearing this, the woman bowed her head and bit her lip, unbearably embarrassed. Thomas, feeling embarrassed, called his mother to explain the situation. In response, his furious mother shouted at us with a ferocious tone. What is this? Being my son like this, I've always disliked you. Despite not graduating from a prestigious university, you are so arrogant. On top of that, you all tricked my son and hurt him, which is unforgivable. I'll make sure you divorce. There will be no alimony. Whether it was because she had been shouting or not, she was taking heavy breaths, her shoulders heaving up and down. Of course, if she didn't know the situation, it was only natural for her to be upset, thinking we were bullying Thomas one-sidedly. However, my father spoke calmly, explaining the whole situation to my fuming stepmother. The first time she heard this, she had a look on her face that said she could hardly believe it. When he explained that her son had abandoned his wife, who was suffering from poor health, to go out with his mistress who was in the room, it seemed she finally noticed the presence of this mistress. Her previous bluster was gone, and she was simply shaken. The woman, feeling completely uncomfortable, bowed her head in apology to us. I am so sorry. I will fully pay you damages. Please forgive me. Unlike her flustered boyfriend and dazed mother-in-law, the woman bowed deeply and apologized. I had her write a promissory note on the spot. When I told her I would consult a lawyer at a later date, she responded in a frail voice, "Understood." I couldn't possibly forgive someone who had done this to me. I showed him the filled-out divorce papers and said, I can't possibly forgive you for this. I'm going to consult a lawyer about everything that's happened. After that, I divorced him. Because he didn't come to my aid when I was ill, I ended up receiving a significant amount of money. With that money, I rented a small apartment and have been commuting to work from there. The office is still full of talks about the two of them, but I don't know if it's because he's thick-skinned or what, but he continues to work as if nothing has happened. Hearing about that doesn't make me feel anything. If anything, I think, so that's what kind of man he was. I decided to try and forget about this as soon as possible and threw myself into my work even more than before. Even with difficult tasks, I worked hard to understand them while asking my boss, and it seems that my efforts were recognized as I was chosen for a 1-year overseas assignment. I am already fluent in English, so I won't have any trouble living abroad. Just as I was getting excited about my overseas assignment, I suddenly started getting repeated calls from an unknown number. Since it was an unknown number, I initially thought it was a wrong number, but since it kept calling over and over again, I thought it might be someone I know, and I answered the call. Hello? Who is this? When I cautiously asked, it turned out to be Thomas. It's been a while, Mary. Have you been well? I just wanted to hear your voice and ended up calling. Unbelievable. He called me casually after what happened. I wonder what he could think of me. The more I heard his voice, the angrier I became. What do you want now? I have nothing to discuss with you. After this call, never contact me again. Then he started talking with a desperate voice. Wait, just listen to me for a second. Actually, I married Natalie, but she doesn't do any housework at all. Since we got married, she doesn't clean at all, and all we eat are pre-made meals. On top of that, I've started to have to take care of my mother. Honestly, I'm in trouble. Although she looked beautiful and neat, in reality, she didn't do any housework. All the meals were grab-and-go food or ready-made meals, and she didn't clean, so the floor was covered in dust. On top of everything, he had to begin to take care of his mother, and in desperation, he turned to me for help. I couldn't help but let out a heavy sigh over the phone, and I felt more certain than ever that breaking up had been the right choice. I'm sorry, but I'm scheduled for an overseas assignment, and there's nothing I can do. Besides, she's the woman you chose. You can't blame anyone else. Take care of your own wife. Upon learning I couldn't assist due to my overseas posting, he pleaded, "Help me. Take me with you to your new overseas position. I can't stand this filthy woman anymore. Life was better with you. Give me another chance." But even if he asks for another chance, he wanted this outcome. No matter how much he struggles, he can't return to the previous state. He was still talking over the phone, but I left him hanging, said I had work, and ended the call. Then I blocked his number. He didn't like that. It seems that very day he showed up at my parents' house, demanding a remarriage and help, spouting nonsense. My father called the police, and he was taken to the station. The company found out about this, and he got fired. He also got divorced, and to pay alimony, he is helping out with the family business while taking care of his mother. Apparently, the family business is physically demanding and quite harsh, and he tries to run away from home many times. But each time he is brought back by relatives, and he seems to be having a hard time every day. Mom chose my toxic stepsister over me and kicked me out, but years later, I'm engaged and his company dropped her husband's contract as a client, and now she's blaming me. I'm a 26-year-old woman engaged to my fiancé, Jeff, who's also 26. We met on a dating app 4 years ago and have been together ever since. Jeff is my soulmate, the one person who has never disappointed me. My life hasn't been easy. My parents split up when I was only 2 years old, and my dad never really bothered with me afterward. While he did pay child support, he never showed much interest in being a part of my life. My mom, who's 48, wasn't exactly a great mom either. She was more focused on her own interests than on raising me. I basically grew up with nannies and babysitters. When I got older, I realized my mom was more into her social life than being a parent. She was a freelance artist and made enough money, thanks to child support, to not worry about me much. Honestly, I think if it wasn't for the money, she would have kicked me out long ago. She never seemed attached to me and mostly just waited for me to grow up and leave her alone. When I was about 13, my mom started dating Matt, who was 50. He had a daughter my age named Jess. When they first came over, my mom stressed how important it was for me to behave well. It struck me because she'd never cared about that with my previous boyfriends. Normally, she'd just let me know guests were coming, and I'd hide in my room until they left. But this time, I sensed my mom was serious about this guy, Matt. Otherwise, she wouldn't have bothered about my behavior. It made me realize she wouldn't have even noticed me if she wasn't into him. When I first met Matt and Jess, they seemed nice, and the introduction went smoothly. Little did I know what was coming next. Matt started coming over more often, and it felt like they were practically moving in together. It didn't bother me much as long as they left me alone. I was fine with it. They became a regular presence, with Jess visiting occasionally as she split her time between her mom's and our place. At first, they either treated me okay or just ignored me, which suited me fine since I wasn't too fond of any of them. I didn't care much about my mom, so caring about people connected to her was hard. All I wanted was some peace and quiet, which I had for a while. Then they decided to move in together permanently. I wouldn't have minded, but my mom said I had to share my room with my stepsister now. I refused. That room was mine, always had been, and it was the only place I felt at peace. In that house, I had my own little corner, and I wasn't about to give up my freedom by sharing my room with someone I barely knew. When I told my mom I wasn't going to share, we had a huge argument. She threatened to kick me out if I didn't obey. I was only 14, but I knew my rights. I felt like I had to stand my ground because my mom wasn't exactly trustworthy. Plus, it just made sense. I knew she couldn't kick me out until I was an adult without getting in trouble. So I called her bluff and told her she couldn't do it. She was frustrated but had to give in and let me keep my room. Instead, she decided to transform the basement into Jess's room. It wasn't as nice as mine, but my mom worked hard to make it comfortable. When she was finished, it looked just as good as any other room in the house. So I didn't see why it was such a big deal. But that's when Jess started disliking me, and I think it had something to do with my mom announcing to everyone during the house tour that Jess had to live in the basement because I wasn't willing to share my room. I couldn't understand why she'd make such a public announcement. I still can't figure out why she did it. Maybe she wanted to make me feel guilty by announcing it in front of Jess, but it just made me uncomfortable. Or perhaps she enjoys drama and wanted Jess to know I refused to share my room, which caused tension between us because Jess didn't seem like the type to let things slide. My mom's prediction was right. Jess didn't let it go, and from that day on, she treated me like the enemy. Even though she spent half the month with her mom, the days she was with us were unbearable. She was constantly mean to me and made hurtful remarks right to my face. Let me paint a picture of the things she would say. Once, she suggested that my dad left my mom because of me, and then she laughed as if it were a joke. She'd also poke fun at my looks, especially because I was a bit chubby back then. At school, she had a group of mean girls, and she never missed a chance to join in on bullying me with them. Before, she and her friends would just ignore me, and I preferred that. We were never friends, but that was better than being enemies. What hurt the most was that I hadn't even done anything to her. She was just upset that I didn't want to share my room with her. It seemed like such a silly reason for her to hate me so much and make my life miserable. My room was my sanctuary, especially with a mom like mine. Who could blame me for wanting my own space? Besides, if any of them had bothered to get to know me, I might have considered sharing. But she was a stranger, and I wasn't comfortable sacrificing my privacy for her. I never complained to my mom or Matt because they knew and didn't care. They'd turn a blind eye to my struggles because I wasn't important to them. So I had to endure it and let her walk all over me. I try to stand up for myself sometimes, but it only made things worse. Our parents would intervene, and I'd end up getting grounded because, well, they favored her. She'd cry a bit and get away with it, but I couldn't fake tears like her, and I wasn't that manipulative. So I'd be the one punished while she got off easy, and I had to deal with it. Growing up there was awful, and I despised my life. When I was finally kicked out around my 18th birthday, I felt more relieved than anything else. I had endured my family's chaos for years, and it only got worse over time. Jess remained a nightmare to deal with, and our parents blindly supported her, no matter what. Over 4 years, she turned our entire high school year against me, and I was left with only a few friends who still talked to me. Everyone else despised me just because she did, and that was reason enough. It took a toll on my mental health, and I struggled in every aspect. I gained a lot of weight from binge eating, which worsened my appearance. I was overweight, battling acne, and my hair was a mess. On top of that, my grades were suffering, so not only did I look bad, but I also seemed unintelligent to everyone else. I had nothing going for me and hit rock bottom. Home life wasn't any better with Jess and my parents. My mom became increasingly unbearable, constantly comparing me to Jess, despite knowing she made my life worse. Things were bad before my mom married Matt and they moved in together, but they weren't this bad. It was disheartening that my mother didn't care about me before, but after she married Matt, things went from bad to worse. She went from being indifferent to actively making me feel terrible about myself. It felt like I was living with mean girls at home too. It was clear to me that Jess was the daughter my mother truly wanted, and I was just dealt the wrong cards. Both of them wished I'd disappear, and honestly, I wanted the same thing. My mother and Jess despised me, and Matt didn't care. With no other family besides my mother and no contact with my grandparents, I had nowhere to turn. I didn't feel right asking friends for help, so I toughed it out at home to at least have a roof over my head and food until I turned 18. But then, a couple of weeks before my birthday, something happened, and I was kicked out that same day. It was a weekend etched in my memory like it happened yesterday, one of the most traumatic and stressful days of my life. We had recently graduated, and Jess had started hanging out with a new, older crowd. She befriended someone whose brother, in his last year of college, became her boyfriend. They'd socialize with his friends, who were all older than us. I was aware of their activities but didn't dare tell my parents, fearing it would backfire. So I kept quiet about Jess drinking and likely smoking weed. I had no interest in those things. I was already struggling with weight and grades. I didn't need more trouble. But that day, I must have left my room unlocked before showering. Suddenly, I heard banging on the bathroom door, and my mother was screaming at me to come out immediately. I quickly dressed and rushed out to see what was going on. When I emerged from the shower, my mother, Matt, and Jess were waiting in my room, wearing serious expressions. My mother produced a bunch of empty beer bottles from under my bed, and even more damning, a large plastic baggie filled with what looked like grams of weed. I knew it wasn't mine, and so did Jess. But my parents didn't know that. Somehow, she must have planted it while I was away and then told my mom. They began yelling at me, accusing me of being a terrible person. It wasn't just about the alcohol and drugs. My mom also criticized me for being a disappointment and for eating all the food. She called me a waste, convinced I'd never amount to anything and would just keep living with them, wasting their money. I repeatedly tried to explain that none of it was mine, and I didn't know how it ended up in my room, but she wouldn't believe me. She got furious when I suggested Jess might have planted it to frame me. She yelled that I was always jealous of her and would never be as good at anything, which is why I was trying to shift the blame. I was in tears, but she didn't seem to care and kept yelling. Eventually, she stopped and told me I had to leave. I was baffled and asked her where I was supposed to go. She said she didn't care as long as I left because she was fed up with me. When I insisted I wasn't leaving, she threatened to call the cops and warned that at almost 18, they'd take drug charges seriously. She didn't want an addict in her house draining her resources. She said I had to fend for myself now because she was done pretending to be a happy family with someone who didn't deserve it. I begged her not to kick me out, knowing I had nowhere else to go and no money of my own. But she remained unmoved. She gave me until the end of the day to leave, or she'd call the police herself. I was stunned by her heartlessness, and even more so by the fact that neither Matt nor Jess objected. They acted like everything was normal. After a lot of tears and pleading, I reluctantly started packing my things. Between facing drug charges and living on the streets, I preferred the latter. By evening, I was finished packing. As I left the house, nobody said goodbye, and I didn't look back either. I spent a couple of hours at the park, but it got too cold, so I decided to go to a friend's place for the night, hoping they'd let me stay. I went to my best friend Amy's house and asked if I could stay for a few days. She already knew about my parents, so I didn't have to explain much. I shared the events of the day with her, and she was shocked. She suggested her parents could help if I let them. I'd always kept the way my parents treated me secret, even from Amy's parents, unsure if anyone would believe me. I felt uncomfortable sharing such personal details of my life with others. That day, Amy insisted I tell her parents everything, and they were just as appalled as she was. They called my mother, trying to reason with her, but she was rude and unyielding. Realizing they couldn't change her mind, they did something incredibly kind. They offered to let me live with them for as long as I needed, promising their full support. They were well off, so money wasn't an issue, and Amy was willing to share her room with me because she cared about me. I spent the next few years living with them, attending community college since it was the only place I could get into with my grades. I worked and saved money to find my own place, but Amy's parents never pressured me to leave. They made sure I felt comfortable and supported. About 3 years ago, I finally saved enough to move out. I was proud of myself and deeply grateful to Amy and her parents. I couldn't have done it without them. Even on the day I moved out, Amy's parents helped me settle into my new place and assured me I was always welcome back to visit or even live with them again. It was a turning point in my life. By then, I had shed a lot of weight, improved my health, and felt much better overall. I was also earning enough to support myself and had spent a good amount of time working on myself. I decided to start dating because I eventually wanted to get married and needed to start looking. Before Jeff, I had met a few guys, but things never progressed far. When I met Jeff, everything clicked. I realized he was the one meant for me. He was funny, cute, and seemed genuinely interested in me. When we started dating, I didn't know he was wealthy or set to inherit his family's chain of restaurants. I just liked him for who he was. It was only after a few months that he shared his family background, and I learned about his future inheritance. Some might assume that learning about his wealth could alter things for me, but honestly, he remained the same person I knew all along. Knowing about his background didn't change my feelings, and I loved him just as deeply as before. After about a year of dating, we decided to move in together, and he introduced me to his family a few months prior. I got along well with everyone, and they all liked me. Everything seemed perfect, so when he proposed recently, saying yes was an easy decision. We've been engaged for 2 months now, and everything's been going wonderfully. Then, about 2 weeks ago, I received an email from Jess. We hadn't spoken in almost 8 years, and I hadn't heard from my family since I was kicked out. I was puzzled as to why she'd reach out now, especially to make amends. Enough time had passed, and neither of us seemed interested in fixing things. So when I read her email apologizing for everything and admitting she'd been awful, I was really confused. She confessed to orchestrating everything in my room because she simply loathed me for no apparent reason. It was baffling why she would confess to it years later, and I sensed something wasn't right about the situation. The timing was suspicious, especially since I had just gotten engaged, and she likely knew about it from social media or word of mouth. Given that we attended the same high school, I decided to investigate further. After some digging, I discovered that Jess's husband owned the business that supplied plastic containers for takeaway orders to Jeff's restaurants. It was relatively easy for me to gather this information by creating a fake profile and stalking her online. Her husband's bio mentioned his line of work, which aligned with what I already knew about Jeff's business plans. I immediately informed Jeff about the connection. In the past few years, I've made a conscious effort to distance myself from my old life, avoiding following any family members online and asking friends not to update me on their news. So I had no idea that Jess had gotten married until I discovered her husband's connection to our business dealings. Upon learning this, Jeff and I decided to terminate our contract with him. The costs were high, and more significantly, I couldn't bring myself to engage with Jess again, even on a professional level. Jeff also mentioned that the quality of the products from Jess's husband had deteriorated over time, and they were already considering switching suppliers. So last week, a few days after I received that email from Jess, Jeff held a meeting with her husband and ended their contract. However, Jess seems to believe that I orchestrated this to seek revenge on her. She's been accusing me of this through emails and social media posts, despite our lack of contact for almost a decade. While I might harbor some resentment, it's not the driving force behind her husband losing our contract. A few days ago, she posted on social media, stating that many clients had been dropping them lately, and this was the final blow. However, she insisted that our decision was fueled solely by spite and labeled it highly unprofessional. She even tagged our Facebook page, creating quite a messy situation. While I can't deny there was a personal aspect to our decision, she also mentioned in her post that she and her husband had been losing clients consistently. While I feel somewhat remorseful, especially considering her struggles, I believe our decision was based on both personal and professional factors. I feel a bit guilty for influencing my fiancé to sever ties with my estranged stepsister's husband, Ida. Update: Jeff consulted with his dad's lawyers, who agree that our actions were justified. We've decided to pursue legal action against them, demanding the removal of their defamatory posts and pressing charges. The truth is, the products we were receiving were overpriced and subpar, so naturally, we sought better options elsewhere. It's purely coincidental that I'm married to the owner of that business. Instead of improving their services, she chose to tarnish our reputation on social media. It's absurd that I even felt sympathy for her given everything she put me through. Your support has helped me see things clearly, so thank you all for your comments and encouragement. Update 2. Jeff and his father initiated a defamation lawsuit against Jess and her husband a few days ago. We're scheduled to meet with a court-appointed mediator soon. Meanwhile, my mother has once again taken it upon herself to defend her stepdaughter. It feels like a high school drama, but thankfully, I can ignore them now without worrying about my living situation. Despite my mother's attempts to provoke me, I've chosen to block her and focus on my own life. I refuse to let their negativity affect me. I'm engaged to the man of my dreams, and I'm about to start a new chapter in my life. I have no room for them or their drama. Update 3. Quick update for you all. We won the defamation lawsuit thanks to the relentless efforts of my father-in-law's lawyers. They were able to swiftly resolve the matter, holding Jess and her husband accountable for their actions. Hopefully, this will prompt them to prioritize their business and meet their clients' expectations. with a legal battle behind us. Jeff and I can now shift our focus entirely to planning our wedding. I'm beyond excited to marry Jeff, my soulmate. I've waited so long to find someone like him, and now that I have, I'm holding on tight. My name is Maria Dalton, and I'm about to turn 27. I've been married for 5 years and have a 4-year-old son named Martin. At first, I worked full-time, but now I work part-time at the same company. My husband is 30 years old, 3 years older than me. Kevin Carlton, who I marry, seemed sweet when we were dating, but things changed after marriage. He became more controlling. Kevin has a 20-year-old sister named Jane Dalton, and he spoils her a lot, maybe because of their big age gap. Before we got married, I didn't really mind how close Jane and Kevin were. But after tying the knot, I started noticing some changes. Jane frequently drops by our place, and I end up scrambling to cater to her every whim because Kevin always caves into her demands. She shows up unannounced, morning or night, without bringing any gifts or even a thank you. She acts like I'm invisible, only talking to Kevin, saying, "Hey brother, I'm here again." Kevin, oblivious to the fact that I didn't prepare dinner for Jane, asks if she wants to eat. When I try to discreetly mention it to Kevin, he brushes it off, leaving me to serve my own dinner to Jane in the end. Then, loud enough for Jane to hear, he blames me, saying things like, "You should have made more food." Jane looks like she's going to cry and apologizes to me. Kevin comforts her and scolds me, saying things like, "You're not considerate," or "Don't be mean to my sister." Even though Jane apologizes, it's clear she feels reassured by how Kevin takes her side. It's like she enjoys it. I end up making my own meal from leftovers while they eat together. Just as I'm about to join them, Jane tells Kevin she wants to talk alone. Kevin moves me and Martin to another room. This isn't the first time. After we finish eating and clean up, I find them chatting on the sofa. They never bothered to clean up after themselves. It feels like they see me as a maid, not a wife or sister-in-law. They don't even talk to Martin. It's like I'm just a maid bringing my kid to work. I was tidying up the kitchen and getting ready to bathe Martin when Kevin suddenly called me, even though it was almost 8 p.m. He said, "Jane wants cake. Go buy it now. Get it from the shop by the station," telling me exactly where to go. But going out to buy cake would make Martin go to bed late. When I hesitated, Jane insisted, "I want it now," and Kevin rushed me, saying, "It's fine if he stays up a bit longer tonight." Then Kevin started yelling at me, blaming me for having an attitude with Jane around. I knew I'd have to go to the cake shop eventually, so I reluctantly agreed. There's a cake shop near the station that closes at 9 p.m. So if I hurry, I can make it. As I was getting ready to go, I overheard them talking, speaking loudly enough for me to hear. They were saying things like, "She's so thoughtless," and "Why did you marry her?" Since I couldn't leave Martin alone, I decided to take him with me. While I was getting Martin ready, I heard Kevin's loud voice from a living room. "If you defy me again, we'll get a divorce." Martin could hear it too. He might not understand the words, but I think he knows his parents are fighting. Trying to control my emotions, I asked Martin, "What kind of cake would you like?" He perked up and said, "Mom, I want a cake with lots of fruits." So on our way to the cake shop, we chatted about cakes, momentarily forgetting about Kevin's words. We made it to the cake shop just before it closed. Luckily, they had the cake Jane wanted. We bought 2 cakes and a fruit-loaded cake Martin desired. When we got back home, I served the cakes to Jane and Kevin. I prepared Martin's cake and brought it to the dining room. As soon as I set it down in front of Martin, Jane pointed at it and said, "Actually, I want that cake." Before I could respond, Kevin moved Martin's cake in front of Jane. Ignoring Martin's protests, Jane started eating his cake. Kevin justified it by saying, "I bought that cake with my money, so I get to choose." Unable to contain my emotions any longer, I expressed my frustration to Kevin and Jane. Kevin then threatened, "We could get a divorce, you know." Martin stopped crying but held my hand tightly, looking worried. Then, after a moment, Martin said, "Mom, I also love cake with strawberries. It's really yummy." He mentioned it while eating the cake that Jane initially wanted. I feel like I'm putting Martin through too much. 3 adults, myself included, shouldn't be subjecting a 4-year-old child to this. When I saw Jane reaching for Martin's cake, I swiftly moved his plate away. Martin happily followed me to another room, saying, "Yummy, let's go over here." Probably Kevin noticed Jane's attempt too. He apologized to her, saying, "Sorry for being so tight-fisted." I wanted to respond, but I held back, not wanting to expose Martin to the word divorce. Seeing Martin innocently enjoying his cake is heartwarming. After he finished, ignoring Kevin and Jane, we decided to have a late bath and sleep in Martin's bed. The next morning, I woke up to find Jane had already left. I was about to wake up Kevin and Martin and make breakfast when I heard Martin crying. I rushed to him to find his piggy bank, a gift from my father, broken, and all his saved money gone. It was Martin's nightly ritual to bid goodnight to his piggy bank before going to sleep. Last night was no exception. He said goodnight to it and cuddled up with me. At that time, only Kevin and Jane were in the living room. I asked Kevin about the piggy bank. He responded casually, saying that Jane needed some money, so she took it from Martin's piggy bank. Martin was still crying as I held him close. His pain was so palpable that it brought tears to my eyes. It was agonizing to see Kevin prioritize and cater to his sister Jane over our son Martin. Anger and sadness flooded over me simultaneously. "Why are you making a morning so miserable?" Kevin retorted. "Don't you think you did something wrong? Martin is crying so much." For the first time since we got married, I let my anger out towards him. I had always avoided arguing in front of Martin, but I couldn't stay silent seeing him so hurt. Kevin looked at me intensely, then went to the bedroom without saying a word, returning with something in his hand. To my shock, Kevin handed me divorce papers, something I didn't even know he had stashed away. "If you're not happy with me, then let's get a divorce," he declared, thrusting the papers at me before storming out of the house with a loud slam of the door. Martin, who had never shed tears over the issues with Kevin and Jane, seemed to have reached his breaking point. He had been crying since last night, and it broke my heart to see him in such pain. "Hey Martin, how about we skip daycare today?" I suggested, hoping to bring him some comfort. He eagerly agreed with a loud yes, flashing me a faint smile. As Martin brought a picture book from the shelf and settled onto my lap, he looked up at me with joy and asked, "Today, Mama is the teacher at daycare, right?" His innocence was like a ray of sunshine. I couldn't help but marvel at his resilience. Today, I decided that we would spend the day playing and cherishing each moment together to fill his heart with happiness. I might be causing some inconvenience at work, but when I explained the situation, they kindly granted me a day off, advising me to spend quality time with Martin. In the morning, we headed to the park, played games like hide and seek, and had a blast on the swings and slides. Upon returning home for lunch, Martin seemed tired and soon dozed off on my lap, just like he used to when he was a baby. Normally, I would use this time to catch up on chores, but today felt different, so I decided to cherish the moment and enjoy watching him sleep peacefully. As I started to drift off myself, I was startled by a noise from the front door. It was too early for Kevin to be back, so I felt uneasy. Quickly, I scooped up Martin, and grabbing only my bag with essentials, I hurriedly hid with him in the bedroom closet. I froze as I sensed someone entering the house, holding my breath as I heard a familiar voice. The person seemed to be searching for something, muttering, "I can't find it." Where did the wife hide it? Fear gripped me as I listened to the sound of rummaging, but as I focused on the voice, I recognized it. It was Jane. Questions flooded my mind. Why did she have a key? What was she searching for? I cautiously cracked open the closet door to see what she was up to. She was rifling through drawers and cabinets, then let out a frustrated sigh before making a phone call. "I searched where you said, but it's not there." "Yeah, I checked there too. If it's not there, it's a waste of time." "Okay, got it. Heading home now," she said, mentioning Kevin's name. Kevin? I wondered what they were searching for. I heard the front door lock, and when it was safe, I put Martin to bed and pondered the strange events. I was certain Kevin was involved in whatever they were looking for. If they were searching for something unknown, could it be one of my possessions? Despite their earlier conversation, I couldn't decipher why Jane had suddenly appeared at our house. Kevin felt like a stranger to me, and I was overcome with a mix of disgust and fear towards him. Hastily, I packed the essentials for Martin and myself. By the time Martin woke from his nap, I was ready to leave. "Martin, let's go to Grandpa's house," I said, and we made our way to the station, catching a train to my parents' home. Thankfully, it was just 2 stops away, so we arrived swiftly. Since I hadn't informed them beforehand, my parents were surprised, but they sensed something was wrong and welcomed us without prying. Their dog, a favorite of Martin's, greeted him eagerly, and they began playing together. Watching them, I felt a sense of relief and proceeded to recount everything that had happened with Kevin and Jane. Perhaps Jane was searching for your bank cards, my mother suggested. It made sense. Before getting married, I had founded a successful online shop for handmade goods with friends. As the CEO of the handmade industry, I gained recognition, but when the shop flourished, I decided to focus on raising my child. I've entrusted my company to trusted friends while I focus on raising my child. I work part-time and handle most tasks from home. Though I'm still the CEO, Kevin is unaware of this. He knows about my previous role and likely suspects I have savings. I've informed him that I receive assistance from the company but left out the CEO details, letting him assume I stepped down. I haven't disclosed the full extent of my CEO position or savings to Kevin for a reason. Shortly after our marriage, I discovered his poor money management skills. He spends everything he earns. He allocates only $200 monthly for food expenses and suggested I quit my job to be a full-time housewife, an idea I never agreed to, given the financial strain of such a small allowance. After some persuasion, he reluctantly agreed to let me work part-time at my current company. To ensure I wouldn't consider divorce, he even had me sign a postmarital property waiver with a lawyer. Since Martin's birth, I've been allotted only $200 for food expenses. Consequently, I've been using my savings to cover Martin's nursery fees and clothing expenses. I've refrained from asking Kevin for money beyond the food budget, leading him to assume I have substantial savings. Jane appears to be in dire need of money, and with Kevin's belief in my savings, they may be searching for my cash cards. It all makes sense now. I maintain a separate savings account dedicated to slowly accumulating funds for Martin's future. A portion of my salary is automatically deposited into this account each month. Given their financial circumstances, it's highly likely they are seeking my cash cards. No matter how hard Jane or Kevin search, they won't find my valuables because I always keep them close, including my cash cards. However, there's still an unresolved issue. Jane might be entering our house even when we're not there, possibly with Kevin's knowledge. Following my father's advice, I decided to store my valuables in my parents' safe. Why are they so desperate for money? As I pondered this question, Martin tearfully approached my father, explaining that his piggy bank had been broken, and he couldn't keep his promise to save up. My father's face flushed with anger upon hearing Martin's story. "I'll call Kevin and talk to him," my mother suggested. While chiding my father, "Let's find out their motives." She reasoned that since Kevin had mentioned divorce, he might try to blame us and make the divorce more favorable for himself. Therefore, it's essential to calmly uncover their motives now to prevent them from escaping with excuses later on. I decided to secretly record their conversation to uncover their motives. My parents suggested consulting a lawyer who was a longtime family friend. Once back home, I started cooking dinner as usual when Kevin returned. I discreetly began recording on my phone, keeping the screen face down to avoid detection. To my surprise, Kevin immediately asked me where I kept my cash cards. When I questioned his sudden interest, he provided vague answers, attempting to deceive me. Remaining silent, I watched as Kevin's demeanor shifted to one of numbness and sadness. "Give me all your part-time earnings for my sister," he demanded, but I refused, explaining that the money was for Martin's savings. This enraged Kevin, who then angrily pushed divorce papers toward me from his bag. "You're relying on my money, so don't defy me," he retorted, dismissing the importance of saving for Martin. His words implied a greater value placed on Jane over Martin, leaving me stunned and disheartened. Upon hearing Kevin's words, I halted my meal preparations, calmly placed the divorce papers into the bag I had prepared earlier, and grasped Martin's hand, leading him to the door. Kevin's voice boomed behind us, declaring, "I'm serious about the divorce. Don't ever return." In response, I asserted, "I won't return to a home where anyone can come and go as they please," before departing. Was it too harsh to label my sister-in-law as a stranger? Following my departure, I was bombarded with messages and calls from Kevin, all of which I chose to ignore. I powered off my phone and sought refuge at my parents' house. There, I played the recording of Kevin's conversation and showed them the completed divorce papers. My parents simply advised, "Do as you see fit." I didn't harbor any love or affection for Kevin, but I still cared deeply for Martin. Some advised me to divorce Kevin to spare Martin's feelings, but I feared that divorcing could also hurt Martin. Amidst this inner turmoil, Martin voiced his hunger, prompting my mother to whip up his favorite dish, hamburgers. Tears welled up in my eyes as my mother, with a gentle smile, said to Martin, "I made these hamburgers so you and Mom can visit us anytime." After taking a bite, Martin beamed and exclaimed, "Grandma's hamburgers are the best. I want them every day," his joyful words tugging on heartstrings. I replied, "It's because these hamburgers are made with all the love I have for you," as he sweetly fed me a bite. Overwhelmed by his kindness, tears streamed down my cheeks uncontrollably. I tried to suppress them, but they kept flowing. My father reassured Martin, who was alarmed by my tears, saying, "Mommy is crying because she's so happy you gave her this hamburger." "These are tears of joy, not sadness," he explained tenderly. Martin, in his innocence, remarked, "This hamburger is so yummy. If Jane were here, she'd love it too." Hearing this, I couldn't hold back my tears, and I embraced him tightly, while my father's eyes filled with emotion. Turning to Martin, I said, "Being with family is a blessing, isn't it?" He looked puzzled and asked, "Didn't Dad say only Jane is family? Is my family just Mom, Grandpa, and Grandma?" My father responded gently, "Yes, that's right," then asked Martin, "Would you like to stay here with us as family?" Martin chuckled and replied, "Of course. We're family," bringing smiles to everyone's faces. When was the last time we had such a natural meal? When did we last enjoy a meal filled with endless laughter and conversation? Despite contemplating divorce, the happiness of this meal persuaded me to finally part ways with Kevin. I planned to break the news to Martin, though the thought weighed heavily on my heart. Surprisingly, Martin seemed to understand and embrace the idea of divorce, expressing, "We'll still be a family." He happily cuddled our pet dog, affectionately referring to him as his little brother, despite the dog being older. With resolve, I began preparations for the divorce. Firstly, I promptly contacted a lawyer who was a friend of my father, arranging to meet the following day. That night, Martin slept with my father and the dog, their faint laughter bringing me comfort as I lay in bed with my mother, reminiscing about my childhood. The next morning, upon checking my smartphone, I found over 200 missed calls and messages from Kevin, reflecting his emotional turmoil. Just the sight of it drained me, prompting me to switch off my phone once more. Today, I met with the lawyer, discussing the details and confirming my decision to divorce. We finalized the paperwork, and the lawyer will meet with Kevin tomorrow to proceed. After some time, the lawyer visited my parents' house to discuss the situation. It turned out that Jane had accrued a substantial debt from gambling and excessive shopping, with Kevin serving as her guarantor. When Jane couldn't make the repayments, they devised a plan to tap into my savings. Now, Kevin wants me and Martin back and is retracting his desire for a divorce, the lawyer explained. However, the divorce papers I had submitted earlier had already been processed. When asked if this meant the divorce was finalized, the lawyer confirmed it, stating, "Yes, it's been accepted." Kevin appeared to break down, expressing his fear of losing me to another man. Despite his emotional plea, knowing that everything was settled brought me a sense of peace. I anticipated arguments over child support, but Kevin even pledged to pay $340 to support Martin every month. Later, Kevin called me. Feeling relieved after the divorce proceedings, I decided to speak with him briefly. His tone was no longer aggressive. Instead, he spoke calmly. He confessed that he believed keeping me financially dependent would prevent me from seeking a divorce. He also acknowledged his tendency to spoil his younger sister, Jane, as a misguided form of sibling love. He admitted feeling jealous of Martin, fearing he had lost me to our son. "Once I've resolved Jane's debts, I'll come back for you. Please don't remarry until then," he pleaded. However, I firmly reiterated that I no longer loved him and wouldn't reconsider our relationship. Before hanging up, I could hear him sobbing softly as he whispered, "Please be happy. Did I manage to stay strong until the end?" Discussing future plans with my parents, I decided to remain at their house until Martin grows up, and he transferred to a different nursery. Returning to my role as company president, I explained the situation to my colleagues. Later, I learned that Kevin and Jane had disclosed the divorce and their debt to their parents, resulting in their disarmament. More than the financial issues, their parents were incensed about never seeing their grandson again. Now, Kevin and Jane, once close, reside in a modest apartment, constantly blaming each other. Their actions have led to their own downfall. Today, I find happiness in being with my family.
I vividly recall the day I first encountered Alex as though it unfolded just yesterday. I found myself nestled in a quaint dive cafe, nursing the most affordable cup of coffee available, attempting to untangle the web of my scattered thoughts and aspirations. That's when he strolled in, akin to a scene plucked from a cinematic masterpiece, albeit devoid of any dramatic lighting or accompanying melodies. Instead, the atmosphere was defined by the gentle jingle of the doorbell and the lingering aroma of stale coffee mingled with his distinct aftershave. "Is this seat taken?" he inquired, gesturing towards the empty chair opposite me with a smile capable of inducing instant infatuation. "It looks free to me," I responded, striving for an air of nonchalance, despite the flurry of excitement his unexpected presence stirred within me. As conversation ensued, it became increasingly apparent that we shared a kinship that transcended mere acquaintance. Our interests aligned seamlessly, from indulging in mindless television series to engaging in spirited debates over preferred pizza toppings. Pineapple, anyone? Fast forward, and we transitioned from casual encounters to a genuine relationship that felt as though it had spanned lifetimes. Before we knew it, discussions of matrimony were underway. Yet, amidst the burgeoning romance, the specter of drama loomed. Alex's parents, a force to be reckoned with, greeted me with thinly veiled scrutiny upon our initial encounter. Their smiles, though ostensibly welcoming, betrayed an underlying assessment of my worthiness. "So, you're the girl Alex can't stop talking about," his mother remarked, her tone tinged with a coldness that sent shivers down my spine. "Guilty as charged," I retorted, masking any semblance of insecurity. However, their insistence on a prenuptial agreement struck a discordant note. While I harbored no ulterior motives, the notion of such a contract felt inherently distrustful. "I'll sign your prenup," I acquiesced, "but under one condition. If infidelity rears its ugly head, the transgressor foots the bill, $100,000. Alex's reaction mirrored a mixture of disbelief and discomfort. Yet I remained resolute. Past experiences had taught me the value of safeguarding against betrayal. We believed this compromise would quell any familial objections, but fate had other plans. One evening, nestled together on our beloved, albeit dilapidated couch, a symbol of our shared history, we found ourselves dreaming of a future beyond our means. Italy beckoned, its allure irresistible despite our financial constraints. "Think about it, Alex," I enthused, envisioning the culinary delights and artistic wonders awaiting us. However, reality reared its pragmatic head. "Our bank account screams backyard camping, rather than romantic Venetian getaway," he quipped, punctuating his words with a playful squeeze. Undeterred, I proposed a strategy of thrift and sacrifice, teasingly targeting his beloved video games as potential casualties. Our banter echoed the essence of our relationship. Dreamers grounded in the practicalities of everyday life. In the midst of mundane chores and playful banter, the topic of starting a family surfaced, a prospect both exhilarating and daunting. "Emily, we need to talk about starting a family," Alex broached, his voice tinged with uncertainty. The weight of the conversation hung in the air as we navigated the uncertain terrain of parenthood, finding solace in the unwavering support of one another. How daunting could it be? I chuckled, a blend of nerves and affection coloring my laughter. Famous last words, babe. That's how it was with us. No matter the challenge, we tackled it hand in hand, even as Alex's mother began dropping not-so-subtle hints about grandchildren at every opportunity. We maintained our united front. "Emily, darling, when will you give me some grandbabies?" "Time isn't standing still, you know," she'd remark, her tone sugary but her message anything but. I'd plaster on a smile, biting back retorts, and Alex would interject, "Mom, give it a rest, will you? These things take time." Yet, as the months passed, pressure mounted, not just from his mother, but from within. Our desire for a family clashed with the harsh reality of infertility. Ever since Judy, his mother, discovered her newfound hobby of tormenting me, our home transformed into a battleground, her weapon of choice a razor-sharp tongue. One Sunday lunch, as we gathered for what should have been a tranquil meal, Judy barged in uninvited, her presence casting a shadow over the room. "Well, isn't this quaint?" she began, dripping with sarcasm, her gaze sweeping over our modest spread. "Emily, dear, I can see you've been slaving away in the kitchen all morning," she remarked, a smirk dancing on her lips. Attempting to diffuse the tension, I offered a feeble smile, urging her to take a seat. But Judy wasted no time before launching into her assault. "You know, Emily," she began, her voice laced with condescension. "Mrs. Henderson's grandson was just born. It got me thinking, when are you and Alex going to give me some good news?" Heat flooded my cheeks, a mixture of humiliation and indignation burning within me. I sought solace in Alex's gaze, only to find him engrossed in his plate, a feeble attempt at avoidance. "Mom, come on," he muttered weakly. But his lackluster defense only fueled Judy's relentless tirade. "Alex, dear, I don't mean to be cruel," Judy continued, "but you're not running a charity here. You work hard for your money. Why waste it on Emily if she can't even fulfill her basic duties as a wife? A cleaning service and a cook would be far more efficient, don't you think?" Unable to contain my frustration any longer, I spoke up. "Judy, I am trying my best here. It's not like I don't want to have kids. And as for the house and my cooking, well, I didn't realize marriage was a service contract." But my words fell on deaf ears. Judy remained steadfast in her judgment, her criticisms cutting deeper with each passing day. She scrutinized every corner of our home, disparaging my appearance and undermining my role as a wife. With each visit, her comments grew sharper, her disapproval more pronounced. "Is that what you're wearing?" she'd sneer. "A wife should dress to please her husband. No wonder Alex is always exhausted. He has to come home to this." I attempted to defend myself, to reason with her, but it was futile. Judy had made up her mind, and nothing could sway her perception. And in that moment, the realization dawned upon me. I was fighting this battle alone. No matter what I said or did, Alex's stance, or lack thereof, remained the most painful blow. Each night, after Judy's departure, we'd engage in heated arguments. "Why won't you stand up for me, Alex? She's walking all over us, and you're just letting her," I'd plead. "Emily, she's old, set in her ways," he'd respond. "What do you want me to do, kick my own mom out?" But it was clear this was more than just about Judy's disapproval. It was about us, our marriage, and whether we were strong enough to stand together or succumb to Judy's criticisms. As the days turned into weeks, I realized this wasn't merely a phase. It was a full-blown siege. If we didn't act soon, there might not be anything left to salvage. The strain extended beyond the home front. Alex himself began behaving oddly. It wasn't the typical stress from work. It was something deeper, something that twisted my stomach into knots. It began with the phone calls. Alex, who had always been transparent, suddenly started stepping out of the room every time he received a call, always from the same caller ID, John from work. One evening, trying to keep my voice casual, I asked, "Who's John from work?" Alex flinched, a telltale sign of unease. "Oh, just a new guy at the office. Lots of questions, you know," he replied, but his evasiveness only fueled my suspicions. Then there was his sudden interest in his appearance. Gone were the days of graphic tees and worn-out jeans. Now it was all crisp shirts, slacks, and cologne. "Since when did you care about smelling like a department store?" I teased. "Just felt like changing things up. No harm in that, right?" He replied a bit too quickly. The late nights at work became a regular occurrence. "Another long one, babe." He'd text, promising he wouldn't be late, but the clock would tick well past midnight before I heard his keys in the door. Try as I might, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. That's when I made the decision to hire a private detective. It felt like something out of a bad TV show, but I needed to know for sure. The evidence arrived in a plain brown envelope. Photos of Alex with another woman, their intimacy undeniable, their conversations captured in a recording, leaving no room for doubt. Sitting there, the evidence spread out before me. I felt a cold realization settle in. This was it, the proof that could anchor me in a stormy divorce should it come to that. But I kept it all a secret, a painful burden I chose to carry alone. I wasn't ready to confront him, not yet. I needed a plan, a way to navigate the wreckage of our marriage with my dignity intact. The following days were a blur. Alex continued his charade, and I played along, the perfect wife with a smile plastered on my face and a heart breaking silently. But then, one day, as I passed by Alex's office, their voices caught my attention. Alex and Judy discussing me. And what I heard changed everything. I stood there, rooted to the spot, a mix of shock and anger boiling inside me. They were planning my exit from this family as casually as one would plan a grocery list. The hurt ran deep, but it sparked something else in me, a burning desire for revenge. They thought they could use me, discard me at their convenience. I'd show them I wasn't just some pawn in their twisted game. A few days later, during a family dinner that felt more like a farce than a meal, Judy brought up her upcoming birthday with the same smirk I had come to despise. "So, Emily dear, what are you planning for my birthday? Something special, I hope?" she inquired, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. I met her gaze, my face a mask of calm. "Actually, Judy, I was thinking of throwing you a dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant. A night you won't forget," I replied. Her eyes lit up with greed, and she exchanged a quick, satisfied look with Alex. They thought they had me cornered, but little did they know I was already 2 steps ahead. "Emily, that sounds delightful. Just close family, keep it intimate," Judy insisted, her voice saccharine. "Of course, Judy. It'll be our pleasure," I replied, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. The weeks leading up to Judy's 70th birthday felt like a slow march towards D-Day. Every smirk from her, every indifferent shrug from Alex fueled my resolve. The plan was simple yet bold: host a lavish dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant under the guise of a loving gesture, then drop the bombshell. But like any good plot, the devil was in the details. The tension at home was palpable the night before the party. Alex, oblivious to the storm brewing, was casually lounging on the couch, scrolling through his phone. "Everything's set for tomorrow?" he asked, not looking up. "Oh, you could say that," I replied, my tone belying the turmoil inside. The day arrived, and as guests filled the opulent dining room reserved for Judy's celebration, the air crackled with anticipation. My heart raced, not from nerves, but from the adrenaline of what was about to unfold. As we all settled in, the meal proceeded with forced mirth. Laughs were shared, stories exchanged, and then, as the dessert plates were cleared away, the waiter approached with the final act of the evening, the bill. Without missing a beat, I handed over my card, the gesture unnoticed by most. It was then Alex, with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes, decided to drop his bombshell. "Emily, I think it's time everyone knew. I'm tired of this of us. I want a divorce," he declared. The words hung in the air, a toxic cloud suffocating all other noise in the room. Before I could even process the full weight of his statement, Judy piped up, her voice sharp and unforgiving. "Well then, since that's out in the open, I think it's best you leave, Emily. We're celebrating family tonight, and well, you're no longer part of it." The room went deadly silent. Every eye was on me, waiting to see how I'd crumble. But I didn't. With a calm I didn't feel, I stood, nodded, and walked out without a word. The cool night air hit me like a slap as I made my way home. By the time I reached his apartment, a plan formed. I packed my essentials, the numbness giving way to a cold resolve. This was it, the end of one life and the start of another. As I zipped the last suitcase, my phone started buzzing, a relentless, insistent vibration that I initially ignored. But curiosity got the better of me. Judy's voice screeched from the other end, demanding I fix the payment issue. The sweet irony of it all. In my preparations for the inevitable, I had secured my exit strategy. I stood there, rooted to the spot, a mix of shock and anger boiling inside me. They were planning my exit from this family as casually as one would plan a grocery list. The hurt ran deep, but it sparked something else in me, a burning desire for revenge. They thought they could use me, discard me at their convenience. I'd show them I wasn't just some pawn in their twisted game. A few days later, during a family dinner that felt more like a farce than a meal, Judy brought up her upcoming birthday with her trademark smirk. "So, Emily dear, what are you planning for my birthday? Something special, I hope," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "Actually, Judy, I was thinking of throwing you a dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant. A night you won't forget," I replied, meeting her gaze with a mask of calm. Her eyes lit up with greed, and she exchanged a quick, satisfied look with Alex. They thought they had me cornered, but little did they know I was already 2 steps ahead. "Oh, Emily, that sounds so delightful. Just close family, keep it intimate," Judy chimed in, her voice oozing fake sweetness. "Of course, Judy. It'll be our pleasure," I replied, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. The weeks leading up to Judy's 70th birthday felt like a slow march towards D-Day. Every smirk from her, every indifferent shrug from Alex fueled my resolve. The plan was simple yet bold: host a lavish dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant under the guise of a loving gesture, then drop the bombshell. But like any good plot, the devil was in the details. The tension at home the night before the party was palpable. Alex, oblivious to the storm brewing, was casually lounging on the couch, scrolling through his phone. "Everything set for tomorrow?" he asked, not looking up. "Oh, you could say that," I replied, my tone belying the turmoil inside. The day arrived, and as guests started to fill the opulent dining room reserved for Judy's celebration, the air was thick with anticipation. My heart raced, not from nerves, but from the adrenaline of what was about to unfold. Judy, ever the queen bee, basked in the attention, lavishing in the luxury of her surroundings. "Oh, Emily, you got done yourself. This place is exquisite," she exclaimed, her voice loud enough for nearby tables to hear. As we all settled in and the meal proceeded with forced mirth, laughs were shared, stories exchanged. Then, as the dessert plates were cleared away, the waiter approached with the final act of the evening, the bill. He leaned in discreetly, informing us the dinner cost was $33,000. Without missing a beat, I handed over my card, the gesture unnoticed by most. It was then Alex, with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes, decided to drop his bombshell. "Emily, I think it's time everyone knew. I'm tired of this of us. I want a divorce," he announced, his words hanging in the air like a toxic cloud. Judy wasted no time in adding her poison. "Well, since that's out in the open, I think it's best you leave, Emily. We're celebrating family tonight, and well, you're no longer part of it." The room went deadly silent, every eye on me, waiting to see how I'd crumble. But I didn't. With a calm I didn't feel, I stood, nodded, and walked out without a word. The cool night air hit me like a slap as I made my way home. The finality of everything that had happened washed over me in waves. By the time I reached what used to be our shared home for the last time, a plan had formed. As I stepped through the door, the air crackled with tension, thick enough to cut with a knife. Alex and Judy were there, looking like they'd been arguing. "You've got some nerve showing up here after last night." Alex spat out, his face a mix of anger and disbelief. "Ungrateful wretch. You've embarrassed us in front of the whole city," Judy added, her voice sharp and unforgiving. But my mind was made up. I tossed the divorce papers on the table, the photos of Alex's infidelity on top. "You should be more concerned with this," I said, my tone steady. The color drained from Alex's face as he picked up the photos, his mother peering over his shoulder. Their outrage turned to shock, then to panic as they realized the extent of what I had. "And let's not forget the prenup, shall we?" I continued, my voice cold, final. "You cheat, you pay. $100,000 to be exact." Judy's face twisted into a snarl. "You wouldn't dare. You can't do this to us." "Oh, but I can, and I will," I replied, my tone unwavering. The begging turned to pleading, their words a desperate scramble to salvage what they could. But my mind was made up. In the end, Alex had no choice but to borrow the money from his parents to pay me. As I left that house for the last time, check in hand, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. After everything, I used the payout from Alex to put a down payment on a small but cozy place of my own. Life's quieter now, and I like it that way. Every once in a while, the grapevine tosses a juicy bit my way about Alex and Judy. But these days, it's just another piece of someone else's story. Life's simpler, quieter, and infinitely sweeter on this side of chaos.
My name is Luda Okojima. I'm 29 and work for a big international company. I grew up in the United States until I was 18. My dad is Japanese and my mom is white. He's the boss at the company where I work. I learned 5 languages when I was very young, thanks to tutoring. Now I'm in charge of the company's operations in Japan, all thanks to my dad's support and the education he gave me. I followed my mom's beliefs and agreed to an arranged marriage. My husband, Akinari, is 6 years older than me. Love wasn't what brought us together. As we started living together, I noticed things that bothered him. The laundry needs washing. We only talk about basic stuff because of our situation. I've been swamped with work emails this week, sorry. That's not an excuse, Han. Lots of wives work and still manage their homes. He was firm about our roles. I work hard, but living together is new to me. I was doing my best to adapt. You're just standing there drinking coffee. How does that help? Drinking coffee helps me wake up and get ready for the day. It's my routine. Mind your own business. Akinari has always been like this since we got married. Maybe he doesn't really love me. He often reminds me that I was homeschooled, so I should be good at housework. Okay, yes, I can handle the housework. You knew that from the beginning. You're so focused on yourself, even though you didn't have a proper education. This household functions because of me. Remember that. We lived in a 4-bedroom house. It was Akinari's dream to own a home, so we took out a loan and got approved. It wasn't something I cared much about, but he made it seem like a manly achievement I wouldn't understand. We never really talked much about our jobs. Education isn't everything, I said simply. Are you testing me? You're belittling my education. According to you, the husband should be the main provider, and the wife should silently follow. Plus, you have a strong accent. People can barely understand you here. We're in Japan. He criticized me for everything. I grew up in the US, so my Japanese won't sound perfect. My mom helped me with pronunciation, but I speak 5 languages. I won't sound like a native Japanese because I'm not. He didn't know this, so he assumed I was unintelligent. I'm going to do the laundry. I'm off today, and Akinari will be leaving for work soon. He's a big germaphobe and always tells me you must bleach the toilet seat after every use. He washed me closely to ensure I cleaned everything after each use. When we moved in together, I used to wear shoes indoors, which is normal in America. Are you white or Japanese? Stop being gross like everyone in America. Take off your shoes, he snapped. In my mind, I thought, I am white. Half white. He was obsessed with cleanliness, always armed with hand sanitizer wipes and disinfectant. At home, he made me feel like I was the messiest person alive. Sorry for the germs, I'd say, wiping things down daily. Honestly, it got annoying. As I loaded the washer, I thought I heard him call, so I went to see what he needed. Did you call me? He snapped back. I did, but you took forever to come. You're just testing my patience. I couldn't hear you. I was doing laundry, and the machine is loud. I explained honestly. You couldn't hear over the washer? Are you deaf? You're pathetic. That's why people without degrees never achieve anything. My husband loved reminding me of my background. I couldn't finish my degree in the US because my father changed jobs. When we moved to Japan, I had to get a degree to work. I passed the entrance exam at a community college known for failures and dropouts. My husband graduated from the University of Tokyo. Coming from America, I didn't realize how prestigious that was until after we got married. But to me, a person's value goes beyond their degree. Is it really such a big deal that I graduated from a community college? What about all the other people in Japan who did too? Do you think less of them as well? I started questioning his values. What's the problem with being a community college graduate? There are many talented people in the world, no matter where they studied. In my company, there are even some who only finished high school, and they're doing great. I don't understand why he's so focused on appearances. In Japan, education is important, but doesn't everyone deserve respect regardless of their education level? I'm sorry, I didn't realize. Oh, so you went to the University of Tokyo, right? Isn't that like the top-notch education? The University of Tokyo? Ha, it's impressive. It's almost funny because you don't even grasp how amazing it is. I'm embarrassed I married someone not as smart as me. If it wasn't for our moms knowing each other, I wouldn't have gone through with this marriage. You don't deserve someone like me. He often talks about himself and points out what I lack compared to him. He enjoys making me feel inferior. In my opinion, people like him shouldn't be the most successful at their jobs. But strangely, his education seemed enough for him to succeed, even though I couldn't relate. I said, I get it. Someone like me doesn't deserve someone as smart as you. Whatever. Just listen to me. I went to the University of Tokyo, so I'll guide you. Just don't try to do things on your own. He's got a big ego and always wants to be in charge. I can't even slightly disagree with him because he always has to have the final word. Okay, time to head to work. Akinari grabbed his suitcase, leaving his coffee half finished, and dashed out the door. I glanced at the table and started tidying up. Isn't this table clean enough? I muttered to myself. 3 hours after he left for work, I got a call. Hello? What? With a subcontractor? Got it. I'll be there ASAP. My company informed me about a mistake found in an order with one of the subcontractors I oversee. They failed to deliver the materials we needed on time for our next project, which would now be delayed. To make matters worse, the materials are coming from overseas, adding extra time and cost. It was supposed to be my day off, but work couldn't wait. When I arrived, everyone was busy, and I immediately met with a team to assess the situation. I reviewed invoices and prioritized materials for the building starting construction soon. I managed a plan for the construction to start next week, but I knew the issue wasn't resolved yet. If the additional materials didn't arrive on time, it would affect future projects too. Normally, the subcontractor would handle such issues, but this time it fell on me. After a tiring day, I finally returned home from work, expecting a relaxing day off. I collapsed into bed and quickly fell asleep. Luda, Luda. I heard my name and stirred awake. I'm sorry, I must have dozed off, I said, though I wasn't truly apologetic. Still, Akinari was quick to judge. You're so privileged. You have a day off and can't even cook dinner for your husband. Instead, you sleep. He was already starting with the criticism, even though I had just woken up. I'm sorry, I had to go to work. There was an urgent situation, I explained, but he retorted, what kind of company calls its employees on their day off? I had a tough day too, you know. He always wanted his problems to take precedence. Perhaps he couldn't handle the idea of his wife being a better employee. It might have been his ego stemming from his prestigious alma mater, the University of Tokyo. Knowing his patterns by now, I tuned him out. Wait, it's 8 o'clock. I glanced at the clock and gasped. I've been asleep for 5 hours since I got home from work. The laundry I started this morning is still in the washer, and I haven't even made dinner. Suddenly, all the tasks I needed to do hit me at once. What are you waiting for? Make dinner first, then clean the tub. After that, do the laundry and the rest of the cleaning. There was a piece of your hair on the floor. It's filthy. His anger hadn't subsided, especially since I had fallen asleep. He never lifted a finger to help around the house since we got married, and he wasn't about to start now. He dictated my tasks and strolled into the living room. I hurried out of bed, washed my face, and started cooking dinner. Just as dinner was almost ready, Akinari's phone rang. It's me. It's happening again. Just stay quiet for now. Don't say a word. If they find out, we could be sued, and I'll bear the brunt of it. Be careful, he said, then abruptly ended the call. Who was that? Work? Did you mention something about being sued? Is there something going on? I already had a sense that something was going on after overhearing his conversation, but he refused to acknowledge it. Please just relax. It's not your concern. Besides, even if there was an issue, your small mind wouldn't be able to handle it, he retorted, hitting me with an unexpected insult. I seethed with anger, but focused on getting through dinner without responding. I'm heading to the office, he suddenly declared, swiftly grabbing his phone and wallet. Before I could question him, he was out the door. I noticed he'd left his suitcase behind, and a file protruded from it. What's this? As I examined the file, labeled Okadera Mountain Resort Hotel Construction Plan Details, shock shot through me. I quickly snapped a photo with my phone as evidence before carefully returning everything to its place. By the time Akinari returned just before midnight, I was seething. I heard him announce his arrival and head toward the living room. "Welcome back," I greeted him. "I need dinner first," he demanded. I simply replied, "I didn't make any." "What? What did you say? You didn't cook?" He raised his voice. "Yes, I had something more important to attend to," I retorted. "You're making excuses again. How much incompetence can one tolerate? That's why I can't stand you, with your community college background." "I don't even care if we get a divorce at this point," he declared, his tone deadly serious. He was a staunch believer in patriarchal control, always insisting on having his way. I finally reached my breaking point and snapped back, "Fine, let's get a divorce." He was taken aback by my response. "Divorce? What?" he asked, bewildered. I pressed on. "You've been belittling me, making me feel unintelligent, but that's far from the truth." My words struck a nerve, leaving him puzzled. "What do you mean?" he questioned. "I haven't mentioned it because I don't care about school. But I actually attended Harvard University," I revealed. "Harvard? Do you even know what Harvard is?" His shock was evident. "Oh, didn't your mother tell you? I was born and raised in the US. I lived there until I was 18, I explained. "You? What? Are you serious?" Akinari looked pained. His ego took a hit. He had been proud of his degree from Japan's top university, but this revelation reminded him of even more prestigious institutions. "You're joking. There's no way I believe that," he scoffed, growing disrespectful. "Are you feeling offended? You seem to resort to inappropriate remarks when you're caught off guard. I guess the University of Tokyo isn't as prestigious as you thought," I said, surprised by my own assertiveness. "My feelings aren't hurt. I just need proof." "Show me the evidence," he insisted, needing tangible proof to believe my claim. So I showed him a photo from my freshman year orientation. "Can you read English?" "The sign clearly says Harvard Unit," I pointed out. "Don't mock me. I can read that," he retorted, scrutinizing the photo himself. "Do you believe me now? Why did you hide this from me? If I had known, I wouldn't have married you," he remarked, his ego clearly wounded. "Was it necessary to feel superior to your wife?" I challenged. "And no, my mom never mentioned it." "And what do you mean you didn't care? It's like you weren't interested in me at all," he deflected, playing the victim. "Isn't it wrong to judge people based on their education? Despite appearances, I can speak 5 languages: English, Japanese, Spanish, French, and Portuguese." "How many can you speak? Being a University of Tokyo graduate, what does intelligence mean to you? What's so impressive about your alma mater?" I taunted, watching him squirm. 5 languages, really? Then why did you attend that community college? It's like you did it to deceive me, and don't even try. "My superiority stems from attending the University of Tokyo," he stubbornly asserted. Clearly, his alma mater held immense significance and prestige in his eyes. I pressed on, sensing his frustration. Judging people solely based on their educational background is narrow-minded. True value lies in someone's ability to excel regardless of where they studied. "That's why I hold a high position in my company," I stated, watching him struggle to process my words. Until now, he had always believed himself to be superior to me. It seemed this revelation shifted his perspective. "Never mind, I need to discuss something more urgent," I interjected, steering the conversation back to the main issue. While I knew it was leading towards discussing divorce plans, there was another matter I had to address first. Akinari was taken aback, wondering what else I had to say. Handing him the file I had found earlier, I demanded, "Explain what this is." Before he could respond, I continued, "This is the detailed plan for the Okadera Mountain Resort Hotel construction project. I know it's a significant project you're working on." "How did you?" he began, but I cut him off. "I saw it sticking out of your bag, so I looked. You went through my private work files. Do you realize how serious this is? If this information were to fall into the wrong hands," he started, his voice rising in alarm. "What are you afraid of? Being sued by my company and having the truth exposed? Is that what would happen if this ever got into the wrong hands?" I challenged. Akinari was left speechless, his eyes wide with shock. "We've both been distant from each other. That document is a joint construction project agreement and contract between my company and yours. See where it says cooperating company and XS company. XS company is mine, and I'm the vice president," I revealed with a smile. His mouth fell open, a bead of sweat trickling down his face. He began to panic and feigned examining the document. No, that can't be right. It must be a mistake from my assistant in the material order or something. Are you making excuses now? I didn't even mention the material order. We were investigating why we lost contact with your company and realized there was an error in the order. We plan to confirm it later, but your admission just confirmed it. I countered. He covered his mouth, perhaps trying to stop himself from saying more. It's too late now, he interjected sharply, and based on what I heard on the phone, it seems you're the one responsible for this mess. You can't even manage to place orders correctly or handle the construction schedule. It's clear that a University of Tokyo graduate doesn't live up to the hype. Or do you still believe you're so brilliant? He continued, cutting me off before I could respond. Why does my wife's company have to outshine mine? How is this even possible? This is absurd. I'm intelligent and capable because of my University of Tokyo degree. You know it, he lamented to himself. In response, I calmly stated, well, I've never considered you particularly bright. Oh, please. The sight of his expression makes me nauseous. As the vice president and head of this project, I'm halting all transactions with your company and seeking damages for this project. Additionally, I'll be filing for divorce. I informed him of the 3 actions I intended to take. Please, anything but that, my usually disrespectful husband begged, his palms pressed together. What do you mean anything but that? You mean all 3 actions. All of them. My entire life will crumble at once, he pleaded. Yes, all of them. It seems it's not just one issue now, is it? I couldn't help but chuckle at his incompetence. This time, as he watched me laugh at him, he felt a deep sense of shame. I no longer wish to be associated with such incompetence, whether as a couple or a company. It's time to let go and preserve what dignity you have left, I advised him. At that moment, he seemed to realize he had run out of options. Desperately, he clung to my leg, perhaps in a last-ditch effort to save himself. Please don't leave me. Don't leave me. The once confident man now sounded desperate, resembling a child being punished by being kicked out of his parents' home. Ignoring his pleas, I made a phone call instead. Hi, President. I'll explain the details later, but I've identified the person responsible for the project mishap. Yes, I'll ensure damages are claimed properly. Okay, bye. After hanging up, he slowly released my leg and stared at the floor. Exhausted, I decided to head to bed without a word, leaving him behind. The next morning, my husband was nowhere to be found. Before heading to work, I stopped by the courthouse to obtain divorce paperwork, which I kept in my purse. I planned to have him sign the papers after work. Upon arriving at the office, I encountered a commotion at the entrance. Akinari was amidst a group of men, engaged in a heated dispute. I'm terribly sorry, the president apologized upon seeing me approach. They've been causing a disturbance for the past 30 minutes, so I decided to call the police. Shortly after, the police arrived and intervened. Amidst the chaos, I couldn't make out what was being said. After giving them a stern warning, the police dispersed the group and they left. That evening, Akinari returned home with a defeated air about him. Without a word, he silently signed the papers I presented. Never subject yourself to such humiliation again, I admonished, but he seemed to be lost in his own world, broken and detached. Ensuring he completed all the paperwork correctly, I gathered my belongings and left without another word, opting to stay in a hotel until I found a new place. The following day, I filed the necessary paperwork to finalize the divorce. Our marriage had lacked love from the start, so I felt neither sadness nor stress over its dissolution. Life continued as usual, and 2 weeks later, I learned that my ex-husband's company had declared bankruptcy. Despite paying the damages to my company, they couldn't sustain future projects due to financial constraints. Consequently, my ex-husband, the project leader, faced legal action from the company, as my boss informed me. Ironically, my ex-husband's emphasis on education as a measure of competence had backfired. His downfall underscored the truth that academic credentials alone don't guarantee success. While Japan values higher education, once in a company, everyone is on equal footing. Success depends on resourcefulness and intentions, not just academic prowess. With this realization, I reaffirmed my belief that a person's educational background isn't paramount. Instead, dedication and determination are what truly matter. Armed with this perspective, I vowed to continue my journey with unwavering dedication, confident that success would follow. My daughter, Erin, now a college student, has been living independently for about a year despite receiving a reasonable monthly allowance and supposedly dedicating herself to a part-time job. When Erin returned home, she looked worn out and thin. "Are you pushing yourself too hard? Are you getting enough to eat?" I asked with concern. "I'm managing with things like cereal," she replied, "but I crave more." Yet Erin fell silent, confirming my uneasy suspicions. She thanked me, saying, "Thanks for the $13 a month, Mom." I couldn't believe what I heard. $13? I've been transferring $1,300 every month. My name is Laura. People have always said I have poor judgment in men. My first boyfriend in college cheated on me within 3 months. Then I dated a younger guy who became a freeloader, likely because I was footing the bills. The man I married after 4 years of dating turned out to be both a spendthrift and a cheat. After divorcing him, I raised Erin as a single mom for 10 years. Erin, whom I once perceived as young and naive, has matured into a dependable daughter, taking the lead in household chores. Despite my insistence that she need not exert herself so much, she remains steadfast, asserting, "You're already doing so much for us, Mom. I worry you'll burn out if I don't help." Moreover, Erin never slacks in her studies. "I want to contribute like you, Mom. I don't want to be a burden," she expresses, diligently preparing for her college entrance exams since her high school days. Though she may exhibit traces of naivety, I wholeheartedly believe she's an exceptional daughter. After diligent studying, Erin received the long-awaited acceptance letter from a prestigious public university. Together, we eagerly searched the bulletin board until we spotted Erin's applicant number, and we clasped hands in joy. As the days swiftly passed before her college journey began, we decided to take a celebratory hot spring trip, relishing every moment of the relaxation. While immersed in the soothing warmth up to my shoulders, I glimpsed my daughter, her cheeks rosy with contentment, and I found her endearing words, "Mom, this is so wonderful," deeply touching. In that serene moment, I silently vowed to protect her with all my heart, no matter what challenges lay ahead. As Erin embarked on her college journey, she left the nest with a blend of pride in her growth and a hint of loneliness. I bid her farewell, watching her set off on her new path. Since Erin began living independently, our nightly phone calls became a cherished ritual. With her knack for household chores and reliability beyond her years, I didn't harbor major concerns about her solo living arrangements. Yet the notion of a young woman navigating life alone stirred a lingering unease within me. I questioned if my worries were excessive, but Erin's cheerful conversations each evening brought me solace. Those end-of-day calls became my much-needed moments of relaxation. Erin would often share details about her college life, her classes, her new friends, her involvement in the music club, and the intriguing upperclassmen she encountered there. Hearing about her vibrant daily experiences filled me with joy. Near the semester's end, Erin's voice carried a hint of tension as she shared, "You know what?" To my delight, she revealed the happy news. "I've started dating someone." The lucky guy was Ian, the senior she met at the club. While I congratulated her with genuine enthusiasm, a twinge of concern lingered within me. As the daughter of someone often deemed unlucky in love, I couldn't shake the worry that perhaps my own romantic misfortunes had been inherited by her. Sensing my unease, Erin cautiously inquired, "Would you like to meet him someday?" I reassured her with a bright tone, "Absolutely." When summer vacation began, Erin returned home, accompanied by Ian. Upon meeting him, I discovered Ian to be a well-groomed and polite young man. "Pleasure to meet you, I'm Ian. I'm dating your daughter," he greeted me with a firm handshake as soon as I opened the door. His demeanor exuded responsibility, easing any lingering concerns I had. Ian sported no tattoos or piercings, yet carried himself with a refined air. The rolled-up sleeves of his shirt added a touch of classic charm, evoking memories of my own youthful attractions. A curious sense of nostalgia washed over me in his presence. We sat down for iced tea together, and I quickly noticed that Ian was not only responsible but also incredibly thoughtful. He graciously offered to carry the tray of iced tea I had prepared and promptly refilled my empty cup when it ran low. "Ian seems like a really decent guy," I whispered to Erin when he briefly left the table. Erin chuckled shyly. "Well, Mom, you were worried, weren't you?" "Of course, darling. It's only natural for a mother," I replied. Erin laughed, "But honestly, Mom, I'm doing just fine. I think I've got better luck in love than you." We both shared a hearty laugh at that, and I couldn't help but agree. You might be onto something there. As the second semester commenced, Aaron, determined not to be a burden, took on multiple jobs to support herself. Despite my monthly financial support for emergencies, she seemed intent on saving every penny for the future. Trusted by her employers, Aaron juggled school and worked tirelessly, leaving little time for her club activities. Concerned, I asked, "Are you sure you're managing? Don't hesitate to use the money I send, and do you need me to come help with chores?" Aaron replied softly, "I'm okay," her voice tinged with wariness. Since Aaron couldn't attend the club anymore, Ian began frequenting our home out of concern. "You have your own worries, don't you? I can handle things myself, really. I'm fine," Aaron reassured him. "If you say so," Ian replied, though his worry lingered. One evening, returning from work, I was greeted by the aroma of a surprise hamburger Ian had prepared. It was delicious. Having Ian around makes things easier. Aaron's cheerful tone betrayed her fondness for him. As time passed, Aaron's calls grew less frequent due to her busy schedule. She'd update me sporadically, but it was evident she was juggling a lot. Despite my reassurances, I couldn't shake the worry. Ian made sure she ate well on his visits, but on other days, Aaron resorted to cereal for sustenance. Despite my financial support, it seemed she was struggling. Aaron wasn't one to squander money, so the situation puzzled me deeply. When I confided in my mother, she brushed off my concerns, remarking, "You're worrying excessively about your adult daughter. It's hard to let go." Perhaps she was right. Aaron would turn 19 soon. Though she still seemed like a child to me, the world saw her as an adult, especially with Ian by her side. Maybe I should just trust that she'll ask for help if she really needs it, I mused, attempting to ease my anxiety. Yet finding peace amid my worries proved challenging. Winter break arrived, and Aaron's return home revealed a noticeable change. She appeared thinner than before, her once slender frame now visibly diminished. Dark circles mirrored her tired eyes. When she explained she had been working late the previous night, coming straight home thereafter, concern flooded me. "Aaron, are you pushing yourself too hard lately? Are you eating properly?" I inquired, unable to hide my worry. "I'm eating properly, cereal and such," Aaron responded. Her sudden silence spoke volumes. Hastily she added, "But I'd mastered the art of cereal." Her smile strained. It seemed forced, prompting a gnawing worry within me. Was she truly eating well? Despite my consistent financial support and her diligent work, a troubling sensation crept over me. Aaron's next words only heightened my unease. "Thanks for the $13 every month, Mom." "$13? I send you $1,300 every month," I replied, stunned by the revelation. A sense of foreboding gripped me. "Aaron, where do you keep your checkbook and debit card?" "It's in my desk drawer at home," Aaron replied. "I'm heading to your place now, Aaron. There's something I need to check," I announced suddenly. Aaron looked surprised by my abrupt declaration but nodded in agreement. As we rode the train to her apartment, conversation flowed between us. The first topic broached was the matter of her mistaken allowance. Aaron explained that she maintained a living expenses account for her part-time earnings and a savings account where I deposited her allowance. She had recently depleted her savings purchasing textbooks and other necessities for the new semester. When she checked her account balance, it was a mere $78. Despite my consistent financial support, she had never inquired about the exact amount. Assuming the $78 was the sum total of my contributions over 6 months, she calculated it to approximately $13 per month. "Is that about right?" I asked. "I thought so, but I thought you might be struggling too, Mom. Honestly, you're such a silly girl. How much do you think I earned?" "Don't underestimate me," Aaron retorted to my semi-joking remark. Her words seemed to ease the tension momentarily, but a shadow crossed her face once more. It dawned on me why Aaron hadn't accessed the money I sent. Someone must have gained access to her bank account, and the most suspicious candidate was Ian, who frequented her apartment. Aaron appeared to be in denial, and I found myself reluctant to entertain the idea that her seemingly kind boyfriend would be involved in theft. I nervously watched as the train approached the nearest station. Upon reaching Aaron's home, we hurriedly retrieved her checkbook and made a beeline for the nearest ATM at the bank. With evening drawing near and the clock ticking past late afternoon, time was of the essence. We inserted the checkbook into the ATM and anxiously awaited the update. The balance displayed on the checkbook left us both speechless. Despite the consistent deposits of $1,300 each month, there were clear signs of frequent withdrawals. Erin's complexion paled as she whispered softly, "Why?" Concerned by her visibly strained state, I escorted Aaron to a nearby coffee shop, where I resolved to delve deeper into the issue at hand. My primary focus was understanding how her checkbook was being managed. Erin disclosed that she stored her checkbook and debit card in a locked drawer within her desk. However, the key to this drawer was stored elsewhere, making it accessible to anyone entering the apartment. The only individual with the potential to access her room in her absence was her boyfriend, Ian, who possessed the spare key. Furthermore, the PIN associated with her debit card was the same as the one she commonly used for her other cards. It became evident that someone had likely observed her during a money withdrawal. I must admit, I was careless when setting up the account. "I'm sorry, honey. Mom should have been more careful," I confessed. "I never anticipated someone else would access the money." "It's not your fault, Mom. I should have been more vigilant in managing it," Erin responded. "Well, we both share responsibility," I interjected. "But the person at fault here is the one who spent money without permission." "Yeah, you're right," Erin replied, her tone lacking its usual vigor. Understandably so, she had been betrayed by the person she likely trusted the most. Witnessing my daughter so crestfallen tugged at my heartstrings. "I'll handle this," I declared unexpectedly. "What? You may want to downplay this, but it's a serious offense. We need to gather evidence and report it to the police." "The police?" Erin's voice quivered, clearly unsettled. "Yes, it's necessary, but don't worry. I'll handle everything. It's all to ensure your peace of mind during college, all right?" I reassured her, and Aaron nodded reluctantly. A few days later, I sought the help of a private detective agency, the same one that assisted me when my husband was suspected of infidelity. "I need you to investigate my daughter's boyfriend. His name is Ian Mack. He's a sophomore in economics at the same university as my daughter. We suspect he may have been misusing the money I've been sending to her," I explained, displaying a photo of Ian from Aaron's messages on my phone. They agreed to take on the case without hesitation, despite their steep fees. It was a necessary expense to resolve this matter for Aaron's sake. As we awaited the results of the investigation, Aaron chose to commute to college from my house due to her anxiety. The journey took over an hour each way, which proved challenging for Aaron, but she found solace in returning home each evening. One night, she prepared granola for dinner. "Just like you said, I've become quite the cereal connoisseur," Aaron remarked with a confident wink. My heart ached at the realization that she must have been eating this meal almost daily. A month later, the investigation's findings arrived. There was undeniable evidence that Ian had been making unauthorized withdrawals from Aaron's account. According to the investigator, shortly after Ian and Aaron began dating, his lifestyle markedly improved, as attested by his friends. What shocked me even more was that Ian's transgressions didn't stop there. It turned out he was involved with several other women. I was handed a collection of photographs. Ian with his arm around different women, happily dining at restaurants, enjoying arcades, and strolling through hotel districts. In each image, a man with a distinctive beauty mark, a teardrop tattoo, was unmistakably Ian. "It seems Ian hasn't just been using the money you've been sending your daughter to impress his friends. He's also been using it to maintain relationships with multiple girlfriends," the investigator grimly informed me. "Thank you," I replied, bowing my head deeply. It was time to take action. I filed a complaint with the police and sent written explanations of Ian's actions to his parents, his university, and all of his girlfriends. Initially, Ian denied everything, but he eventually confessed when confronted by multiple girlfriends. Naturally, all of the girlfriends, including Aaron, severed ties with him. As a result of the police investigation, Ian was expelled from the university and sent back to his parents' home. Fortunately, his parents were reasonable and came to my house with a humble gift to apologize. For the time being, his parents have agreed to reimburse the stolen money. "I'll make our stupid son repay this, even if it kills him," Ian's father vowed, his voice choked with emotion. According to what Aaron heard through the grapevine, Ian is now working multiple jobs to repay his parents. By the time this ordeal settled, spring had arrived. To mark the end of this unfortunate chapter, we decided to celebrate Aaron's spring break with our first trip to a hot spring resort in over a year. Erin had managed to reclaim her life since then, her complexion and physique returning to a healthy state. As we soaked in the warm baths, indulged in delicious food from the inn, and relaxed in front of the TV, I felt like we were finally able to enjoy some peace after a long while. Just before drifting off, Aaron's voice came from beneath the covers. "Hey, what's on your mind? Remember how you and Dad split because of his reckless spending and affairs, right?" Aaron's words caught me off guard. My ex-husband, much like Ian, was someone who flaunted wealth to impress others, yet struggled to cover basic expenses due to his extravagant habits and moral lapses. I served my ex-husband with divorce papers, just as you did with Ian. It seems we have a pattern of choosing similar types of men, don't we? Aaron offered a rueful smile. "Indeed, we'll have to be more cautious from now on," I replied, trying to sound upbeat despite feeling a bit uneasy. "By the way, you seem happier lately. Did you meet someone special?" "No way, it's not a boyfriend," Aaron exclaimed teasingly. Could he possibly become one? Lately, I had been developing a friendship with the investigator assigned to our case, but I hadn't mentioned it to Aaron yet. Even so, was there a spark, or was it just the bond between a mother and daughter who've been through a lot together? "Hang on, are you sure it's going to work out this time, Mom?" Aaron teased with a playful chuckle. "Well, it should, right? Unlike your father, he seems serious and dependable. But let's get serious here. If it's my turn after all this, Mom, it won't be a laughing matter," I replied, adopting a serious tone. "Got it? I'll tread carefully," Aaron responded solemnly. But then, unable to contain our amusement, we exchanged a look and burst into laughter. "My family's leaving my niece with us. They think we should be happy about it." At the door are my husband's parents and his sister, with her 2-year-old daughter. They've been asking us to look after her since they got divorced half a year ago. Instead of easing off, they're insisting we take her, even though we're not in a position to raise someone else's child. But things are about to take a surprising turn with this little girl. I'm Kelly Allen, and I'm 27. I married John, who's 29 and was running a restaurant when we got married 3 years ago. We hoped to have kids, but it didn't happen. Luckily, Jan has been really kind to us, making our lives busy but fun. I've hardly seen John's family since we got married because he's not close to them. The gap between them got bigger when he opened his restaurant. His parents worked at a big family restaurant chain, and they wanted him to join too. But John had his own dreams. "I want to make dishes that everyone will love," John explained. But instead of understanding him, his sister treated him like he was attacking their family's restaurant chain. "Are you saying our food isn't good enough?" John must have found it frustrating that she wouldn't listen. After endless arguments, John gave up trying to convince them. "I'd rather keep my distance from Mom and Dad." "Okay, I'll stay out of it too," I told him, and we enjoyed our peaceful days together. But everything changed when Jan divorced and moved back in with their parents 6 months ago. One weekday during lunch rush, Jan burst into the restaurant. "I'm here again. It's so quiet in here," she loudly announced, bringing her mother and her 2-year-old niece. They sat down without hesitation. "You're back. Remember to keep it down," John reminded her. "Always complaining. Anyway, I'll have the usual and make it quick." Jane never pays when she visits, and we were getting tired of it. I signaled to John that I'd handle it and stepped in front of Jan. "There are other customers waiting, so if you're dining here, you'll need to pay like everyone else." "What? You're actually charging family? How low can you get?" Jan's outburst drew the attention of everyone in the restaurant. "Please lower your voice. It's disturbing others," I politely requested, but she ignored me. "This is all your fault. John's changed because of you." Her harsh words froze the atmosphere. My husband, stopping his cooking, emerged from the kitchen. "If you're here to cause trouble, please leave. We can discuss any issues later. We'll address any concerns you have, so please stop causing a scene." But Jan continued to complain, ignoring both me and my husband. Even her mother, instead of reprimanding her, just urged her to hurry up and order. Seeing that we couldn't defuse the situation, we served them lunch. They left without paying, acting as if it was normal. But it didn't end there. Jan became even more demanding. "You're looking after Riker today too." Every day, she declared, dropping off her daughter at our shop. "But we're working. It's your job as a mom to take care of her," I protested. "I'm busy. Since there are hardly any customers, you might as well help me out," Jane insisted, pushing her daughter's care onto us. To her, we were just free babysitters. To fully unload her responsibilities, Jan and her mother started visiting our restaurant frequently. "I'm sorry about my family. I didn't mean to cause trouble for you or the restaurant. Kelly, John S. apologized after they left Riker behind and left. Our business wasn't booming, and their disruptions were part of the problem. Our regular customers, who preferred a peaceful atmosphere, stopped coming. It wasn't just about John anymore. Poor Riker was caught in the middle. Holding my niece close, I sighed deeply. We kept going despite the weight on our hearts. But a few weeks later, things took an unexpected turn with my in-laws. One evening, after closing the restaurant, Jan and my in-laws appeared at our doorstep. Instead of at the restaurant, they were at our house. When John and I opened the door, Jan abruptly handed Riker to us, looking bewildered. "I'm leaving my child with you. Appreciate it." John and I were stunned, our eyes wide. "What do you mean?" I asked, though I suspected it was because we couldn't have kids. "You're not busy since the restaurant is quiet, right? So you can be Riker's parents," she explained, deciding to completely abandon her niece. Even the grandparents didn't want to care for her. John's face flushed with anger at their callousness. "This is too much. You're giving up on Riker." "That's not right. I thought you guys, without kids, could handle her," Jan said, her tone tense. Riker, sensing the tension, nervously sucked her finger and looked down. "But you don't have to worry about that. Take her back," I firmly replied. "Kids need their moms. Even a 2-year-old knows that. You can't refuse. If there was a serious reason, maybe, but I can't agree to selfish excuses like it's too much trouble." I rejected her request firmly. "We're busy with work, and honestly, I don't find a child with my ex-husband's blood cute at all," I said, shocked at my own words. That's something a parent should never say, especially not in front of Riker. It's unacceptable. My in-laws sided with her, sharing her views. Jane and her parents would only make this poor child suffer, they said. Realizing this, I held Riker close, feeling a strong sense of duty. I have to make this child happy. So are you really okay with Riker being our child? I asked Jan firmly. She smirked. Of course, and I'll sell you all her baby stuff and toys. I don't need them anymore, so you better buy everything, she said, her parents smirking behind her. Not only were they avoiding their responsibilities, but they also wanted to make money from us. They were beyond redemption, but if it meant cutting ties with them, it was a win for us. When I talked to John about it, he agreed. Yes, we'll buy everything you're selling, but in return, stay away from us, I told them firmly. Jan stepped closer, asserting, don't act so superior. You're just a daughter-in-law. I was going to sell them anyway. Just be prepared for a big bill. After using us to their advantage, Jan and her parents left in a hurry. True to her word, Jan sent a box of Riker's used toys and clothes, along with a hefty bill of $30,000. With the restaurant struggling and our finances stretched thin, I couldn't afford such extravagance for Riker. But I still had some savings from before I got married. No, this is too expensive. It shouldn't cost that much, I muttered nervously. Despite my concerns about depleting our savings, using items Riker was familiar with might provide her with comfort, right? As I anxiously waited for a response, as I watched my husband in silent contemplation, he finally agreed with me. You're right. Rhea would be happier with us than in her old home. Thank you, honey. Let's take care of this child together. And so, we ended up raising Rhea as our own daughter, alongside managing the restaurant. Without the in-laws around, our stress lessened, and both my husband and I cherished Rhea deeply. She was so sweet, and I felt inspired to do anything for her. But our lives weren't just about adding a new family member. What a busy day it's been. Indeed, who would have thought our restaurant would be so packed? At the end of a long day, my husband and I shared a laugh. Our once quiet restaurant was now booming, thanks to a recent addition to the menu, an omelette that had unexpectedly gone viral on social media. What surprised us the most was how this idea came about. Who would have guessed it was Rhea's suggestion? As I affectionately patted her head, I recounted. While we were brainstorming new menu items, Rhea suddenly said omelette. It caught us off guard. Since we didn't offer omelettes at the time, I whipped up a special one loaded with eggs and topped it with our signature demi glace sauce. Following John's approach, we personalized each serving to suit our customers' tastes. It turned out to be a huge hit, and Rhea continued to lend a hand whenever I experimented with new dishes. She'd mumble names like Napoleon or pudding, and when John whipped up those dishes, they were a hit. Customers would exclaim, "This is exactly what I was craving." and happily dig in. With the old challenges of running the restaurant behind us, life became more exciting with Rare around. I couldn't help but wonder if possessed some mysterious power. It seemed possible. The other day, when I couldn't find my glasses, Rare was just staring behind a shelf. Lo and behold, there they were, tucked behind it. Wow, Rare, that's incredible. Of course, it was all thanks to John's setup. When we praised them, Rare and my husband would exchange happy smiles. They looked like they had always been a part of our family. Initially worried, I now felt confident about providing Rare with a good life. Even in ordinary moments, I felt a profound sense of happiness. But then, something unbelievable caught my attention. What's this? Hey, come see this. John, glancing at his phone, exclaimed in surprise. Intrigued, I peered over to look at the screen, where a news article was displayed. The contents shocked me so much that my eyes widened. Can this really happen? Surprised, Rare observed us, then grabbed a box of building blocks and slowly offered it to us. We shook it, hearing something inside. Is there something in here? I asked, meeting Rare's serious gaze. If Rare was this focused, there must be something important. We carefully examined the blocks and were stunned. An underlying anger began to simmer within me. To think she had hidden something like this. Unforgivable. Despite my anger, we knew we had to wait for the right moment. A few weeks later, in the dead of night, Jan and I were startled awake by the doorbell. Careful not to disturb Rare, we cautiously opened the front door to find Jolie standing there with disheveled hair. Give me back my daughter, now. Her sudden demand left John and me exchanging looks. Weren't you the one who left her with us? What's changed now? Weren't we supposed to stay out of each other's lives? I challenged, but before we could shut the door, Jolie forcefully wedged her foot in, refusing to leave. She's my child. I'm here to take her back, she insisted. We explained it wasn't possible, but Jolie kept pushing to take her daughter, causing a scene. Frustrated by her selfishness, I sighed deeply and crossed my arms. Please don't take your frustrations out on us because of your work troubles, I said. Caught off guard, Jolie's face flushed red with embarrassment. What? How did you know about that? She stammered, clearly flustered. Recalling the recent news I had seen on John's phone, it was about a scandal at the chain restaurant where Jolie's family worked. They had been caught using expired ingredients to save money, leading to a widespread food poisoning incident. The backlash on media and social platforms had been severe, and the chain's reputation had taken a nosedive. Everything was fine until we gave up our daughter, and then this happened. It must be because she's gone, I mused. Jolie, clearly facing severe consequences, erupted in anger. What are you talking about? Rare has nothing to do with this. No, she's not involved, I assured her. Since then, everything had been going downhill. According to Jolie, their troubles didn't end there. Her mother lost a wallet containing a large sum of money, and her father was involved in a car accident that cost $6,000 in damages. Jolie blamed Rare for their misfortunes. Since you took Rare, your restaurant has been thriving. It's hard not to think she's involved. Her words left John and me speechless. While we couldn't blame Rare for all their misfortunes, we couldn't deny the strange coincidence. Maybe I should help them a bit. Despite their actions, it's hard to watch them suffer, I pondered aloud. But before I could say more, Jolie raised her voice sharply. With that child, we would be secure, and all this misfortune would come your way instead. Her words extinguished any sympathy I had. We will never give Rare back to you. It's only been a few months, but we've grown to love her as if she were our own. We can't hand her over to someone who only wants her back for their own gain, I declared, glaring at Jolie with a firm expression. Don't speak to my wife like that. Your greed is apparent. I care for Rare far more than you ever did. I won't let her go, no matter what. Please, leave, John added, his tone resolute. I couldn't forgive Jolie for treating her own daughter like a commodity, something to exploit. Our restaurant's success was due to John's meticulous attention to detail, seasoning and presenting each dish according to our customers' preferences. He had utilized hints from Rare to cater to individual tastes, offering rich flavors, light options, or a touch of spice. His creative plating, including edible flowers for Instagram-worthy dishes and generous portions for hearty appetites, had become a hit. While Rare had contributed to our success, it was John's dedication that truly made a difference. She's not a cash cow to be returned, I retorted with disdain. Jolie's face twisted with resentment as Jan looked at her with pity. No matter how much you protest, my decision won't change. I don't want to see you again, Jan stated firmly. With calm resolve, I handed Jolie a flash drive that she hadn't noticed before. Our misfortunes aren't because of Rear, but a consequence of actions like yours, right? Jolie's face paled as she recognized the drive. That's the one my parents and I have been searching for. How did you get it? It came out of the toys, I replied calmly. It might actually be worth what you paid for it, I remarked. The flash drive had been inside the box Rare handed to us, and considering her mysterious abilities, I believed there was a reason she had handled it. To our surprise, the drive contained data from a secret ledger, revealing receipts from suppliers and evidence of inflated charges. Rare's parents, former executives at the company, had been embezzling funds by overcharging for ingredients and pocketing the excess. The calculation showed embezzled funds totaling about $2 million. Rare had sensed something was wrong and hid the drive, along with some blocks. I can't believe we missed it even after searching the house, Jolie muttered in disbelief. She snatched the flash drive from my hand, looking relieved. I've already informed your company, she declared confidently. But as the reality of her actions sank in, she began to tremble. No, if they find out about the embezzlement, our lives are over, she confessed, her bravado crumbling. Begging for forgiveness, she pleaded with us to help cover up her crimes. But her past actions couldn't be erased. My husband, firm in his resolve, advised against forgiveness. There's nothing more we can do but face reality, he muttered. As Jolie dialed the phone with trembling hands, tears streaking her face, I listened to her conversation with my in-laws. It was a bitter reckoning for them all. They screamed in shock and then asked to speak with me. As soon as I took the phone, my in-laws pleaded, "Please, you have to do something. We're begging you." I listened in silence, but after a moment, I took a deep breath. You must face the consequences of your own actions. Goodbye. With that, I ended the call and returned the smartphone to Jolie. Think about it carefully. If you truly want to raise Rare, I'll consider it. Is that what you really want? I doubt we'll ever see eye to eye, no matter how much we talk. Please leave. Your presence is unwelcome. If you don't, I'll have to involve the authorities. Jolie flinched and backed away, so I firmly shut the door without mercy. Peeking from the second-floor window, I watched as she walked away, her figure fading into the distance. That was the end of our connection. Later on, my in-laws and Jolie were dismissed from the company for their embezzlement. They were sued and eventually arrested. After serving their sentences, they would have to repay the $2 million they stole. Even after their release, they would endure the consequences for a long time. It's true what they say, you reap what you sow. Meanwhile, we officially adopted Rare as our daughter. Jen and I continued to manage our restaurant and witness Rare's growth. Our business thrived, and while the extent of Rare's abilities remained unknown, one thing was certain. Jan and I loved Rare more than anyone else. After all, she was